Thanks very much, Tim. And we're first timers on Share Cafe, and I'm sure you'll find this presentation of interest. Just in summary, we've got two principal projects that we're looking at. One is a silver mine development. The Bowdens Silver Project in central New South Wales is the largest undeveloped silver project in Australia and one of the largest globally. Exploration is very much part of what we do, and I'll go into a bit more detail in what we're doing on exploration, but we've got a particularly interesting program going forward. Next slide, please. Just a snapshot. Tim mentioned we've got a market cap a bit over $280 million. We're in a trading halt at the moment. We're doing a capital raise at the moment, which will be announced completed and announced on Monday morning. On the register at the moment, North American, Sprott and Brick Lane, Conway, which is the Gold 2000 fund out of Zurich, Regal and others. So well supported from an institutional point of view, and that's expanding, and in particular in North America. Our background is very much in mineral exploration and mine development. That's we've got very strong representation on our board. Next slide, please. So the Bowdens Silver Project, central New South Wales, about 3.5 hours drive from Sydney, so nice and local. New South Wales is known more for its coal. The Port of Newcastle is the largest export coal terminal in the world. However, outside of coal, there is some large developments. Katie Ridgeway is one of the best mining operations, gold and copper, globally. Then you got Cow, Evolution, North Parks, and so forth. We're not Western Australia, but we do have significant mineral developments in New South Wales. Bowdens is certainly something that is of particular size that gets up there with those large operations. Next slide, please. So Bowdens itself is 100% owned. We've owned the project for a bit over 4.5 years. The mineral resource is 270 million ounces of silver equivalent. Of that, about 160 million ounces of silver. The project is vast. As I mentioned, it's the largest undeveloped silver project in Australia and one of the largest globally. We've completed our feasibility, robust economics. We've completed our development application. Environmental impact statement has been submitted. That was in May last year. And the primary aspects of the EIS show particularly positive outcomes, whether it's from an economic point of view or an environmental point of view. We've got strong support locally, which dictates strongly a clear path towards development approval. So we expect to have development approvals through the course of this year. Next slide, please. So back in time, so we took over the asset mid-2016. Previous owners had spent a reasonable amount of money on the project. Kingsgate Consolidated owned the project. They bought the asset for 75 million. They spent about another 30 million on it. We bought the asset mid-2016 for 25 million. So that's representing primarily the drop in the silver market, but obviously we're in a different realm, which I'll touch on in a moment. So when we took over, the principal objective for us was not only mineral exploration and understanding what we're dealing with, but development of the resource. So within the first 12 months, we added about 100 million ounces of silver equivalent to the resource. That moved straight into the feasibility, which was complete in 2018. And since then, further exploration, but primarily the development of the environmental impact statement, which, as I say, was submitted in May last year. So we're at the tail end of the approval process. We see nothing in the way to have that approved shortly. Next slide, please. So the feasibility study, as I say, 2018, robust economics. We're tapping into about 30% of the measured and indicated resource. So that's indicating the size of the deposit. Our kickoff is at 2 million tonnes per annum. over the life of mine will produce over 50 million ounces of silver, plus zinc, plus lead, but expandable. So, in the course of the ensuing years, we'll have more details that will show on that, but I'll explain a bit more on that in the exploration section of the presentation. Next slide, please. More of the metrics from the base study. Next week we'll have further information of how these metrics will look at current silver pricing. So 2008, we're dealing with a $20 silver price, and now silver pricing is about $27, $28 US per ounce. So the metrics at today's pricing are particularly favourable for this project, as you would expect. Next slide, please. So getting into exploration, next slide. We just put it further on the map. So the mineral developments in New South Wales are within the Macquarie Arc of New South Wales, so Cadia Ridgeway, Cow, North Parks and other deposits primarily on the western limb of the Macquarie Arc. We're on the eastern limb. That's recently been proven by us and in collaboration with University of New South Wales. So we own about 2,000 square kilometres of the eastern limb, and we have demonstrated now that indeed it is that eastern limb, same rock, same structure, same mineralisation styles, and however poorly explored. A lot of work, a lot of money has been invested in the Bowdens Silver Project, but the rest of the portfolio, a lot more exploration work is required, and that's part of our planning moving forward. Next slide, please. Putting it further on the map, so we're near Mudgee, central New South Wales. Bowdens Silver Project in the bottom quadrant of the tenement block, as I say, 2,000 square kilometres. To the north of us is Golgong. Golgong's an old gold mining centre. As we move further south in our tenement block, we get into other mining districts, lead, silver, molybdenum, copper, and so forth. As you reach further south, more silver, zinc and lead. And that's effectively the centre of our universe is the Bowdens Silver Project. Barraballar in the north is a exploration copper gold porphyry target that's got potential signatures of Cadia Ridgeway. Next slide, please. So zooming in, the Bowdens project in the bottom there, we're in a zone of crustal extension, which is deriving mineralising fluids, and as I say, the bulk of the work has happened at the Bowdens Silver Project. But as we get further afield and moving to the north, we see other mineralisation styles from surface. And that's dictating exploration projects going forward. Next slide, please. This is some of the work we're doing at the moment. So we've got 2 rigs on site, and this is looking directly under the pit, which is shown in yellow. We've got a 10,000 metre program that will roll forward into further exploration, given the success we've been reporting over the last period. Next slide, please. And this sort of sums it up. So the blue area there is the proposed open pit, and mineralisation directly underneath continues. As I mentioned before, the open pit is tapping into 30% of the known resource. But where we're drilling now, and this is outside of the resource primarily, we're seeing what we consider to be a feeder zone to the mineralisation closer to the surface. So sort of below 200 metres down to 450 metres, we're seeing quite spectacular grades of silver primarily. We announced a couple of weeks ago one hole that was 26 million at 250 grams silver, including 10 metres at over 400 grams silver. So you're getting those sorts of grades. We've now determined this area to be about 200 metres by 300 metres, with a thickness that ranges from 1 metre up to sort of 25 metres odd. So what we see in this area and what we're hoping for in this area with further work, and as I mentioned, we've got 2 rigs on site at the moment, but the further work is designed to hopefully scope this area out for a future underground, high-grade underground development. So we're particularly excited about this. Some of the previous results, 4 metres at 1,000 grams silver equivalent. That's 4 metres at 30 ounces silver, and that's extremely positive, extremely high grade in any language. Very unusual for this part of Australia to see this sort of grades and volume of the grades. So as we move forward, we're stepping out. We're, as I mentioned, 2 rigs on site. We've got several holes that have been complete. Assays are awaited. And as those arrows dictate, the system is very much open as we get deeper. So a lot more work to come out of this, and a lot more results. We'll have a steady stream of exploration results over the ensuing period and throughout the balance of this year. Other exploration, there's more detail in the presentation. I won't go into that right now, but at your leisure, please go through that and see what we're doing north of Bowdens. We've got another project south of Orange that we've just completed our initial drilling. I encourage you to get online and have a look at the detail that are public releases, and please get in contact if you have any further information. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate you being on time there. There's obviously a few questions around the trading halt. Can anything be disclosed, or nothing as of yet?
Yeah, well, as we say in the trading halt, we're doing a capital raise, so that'll be complete and announced first thing Monday morning. But I think in this environment, we've got a very, very positive silver market going forward. You've got the likes of Citigroup and Goldman Sachs and others with a very bullish agenda on silver. The supply-demand issues that are out there at the moment are showing a real pinch going on, but that's more, the idea of a silver squeeze that's been purported out there just recently is not something that we really buy into, but particularly the more the credible commentators out there that are focused on the supply-demand issues are real, and there's a fundamental issue. You can't buy physical silver at the moment; it's just not out there. So going forward, we've got a particularly positive market, and that's highlighted by some of the big commentators in the market. So I encourage people to get online and have a look at some of that. We've got full exposure to that. There's a few smaller companies on the ASX. We're the largest pre-development. The system is tremendously large. We've got an aggressive exploration going on. So I think us feeding into the accretions in the silver market going forward, we're nicely positioned, and that's going to be reflected when we come out of our trading halt on Monday.
And so the time frame to going into production and being able to kind of capitalize rather on this demand for silver, is that something you can manage properly?
Yeah, so we need to get through approvals first. So that, as I mentioned in the presentation, we're hopeful that the second half of this year will be through approvals. But in this market, the opportunities of financing a development like this are real, and it's our objective to get straight into it. And I think you've got to take the opportunities in the market when they're there, and that we're in a bull market for silver, and that's clearly there for years to come, as is gold. So I think it's in our interest and our shareholders' interest that we move very aggressively, whether it's in development or exploration.
And hence that's the reason for the capital raising, to kind of expedite that production process and moving forward.
Indeed.